Well, to discuss the issues of faith and fundamentalism, I'm joined now by the chaplain to the Speaker of the House of Commons, the Reverend Rose Hudson-Wilkin, and Abdullah al Andalusi, the co-founder of the Muslim Debate Initiative. Reverend, first, an act of war to be responded to with troops on the street, as in Paris, or extra surveillance, such as David Cameron is promising here, or are these crimes by crazed individuals that we deal with in a criminal way?
I wouldn't want us to dismiss what is happening, these individuals, and say they're crazed individuals. I think that as a society, as a world, we live in a global world, we need to take what is happening quite seriously, and we need to try and understand what is the underlying fuel that is creating this. And I must say that there ought to be no excuse for the level of violence we've seen. And it's not just violence against the West. We saw what happened in Nigeria with those children who've been kidnapped and the ongoing bombings that occasionally takes place there, and also the massacre in Pakistan. So it's not just about what is happening here, it is also what is happening on a wider scale.
No excuse, but going to war in the past has proved a recruiting sergeant for the extremists we tried to fight.
Well, it is said that it creates more.
You don't believe that?
I don't know whether it does. I think, again, you know, we've heard them saying, oh, because you went to Syria, because of your bombings, that's why we're doing this. I don't know. But what I do know is that we need to address this not as something that Western European countries deal with, but as something that the United Nations and worlds globally deal with. This is a world problem that we are facing.
Abdullah al Andalusi, how do you respond to this notion of a recruiting sergeant from previous wars we've fought?
Well, I think that the biggest recruiting sergeant is pretty much various Western governments, France, UK, America, who's gone to different Muslim countries, have created a lot of grievances by invading, bombing, attacking them, supporting regimes like Israel who do the same. And this has caused a lot of grievance amongst Muslims, amongst victims and so on. In the West, with the Muslim minorities here, it's not the first time the West has had issues of problems with minorities. We go back into the mid-20th century. Everything that's been said about Muslims today was said about Jews back then. But no one said, for example, the killing of Wilhelm Gustloff, who was a Nazi distributor of books and so on, just expressing his opinion according to the Nazis. But no one says that his killing by a Jewish man was an indictment on the Jewish community or due to Jewish extremism. There were certain situations back then which were grievances the Jews had. They were denied various rights. They were persecuted. They were maligned and demonized because they were different. They had different values and practices. And unfortunately, we're seeing a repetition of this. But this time round, it's the Muslims. And I'm very sorry to see that Europe has not learned anything from its history.
But, well, OK, well, let's put that to the Reverend. I mean, UKIP talks about a fifth column. You've got the original Charlie Hebdo cartoon. You've got, I mean, the situation, people marching in Germany. Are people happy to target Muslims now?
I suppose in the crisis that we're facing at the moment, they are seen as, you know, easy target. But it shouldn't be. One or two people from a particular ethnic background behaving in a way that is, I can only describe as evil, does not mean that you tarnish the whole community and say that we want them out of Europe or, you know, they're all bad, because that's not true. That is not true.
I wanted to ask you, Charlie Hebdo is republishing the original cartoon. Do you take your cue from the Muslim mayor of Rotterdam, who says if you don't like freedom, then pack your bags and leave? In other words, if you've got freedom to practice your religion in the UK or France or wherever, you have to respect the freedoms to criticise it.
I wish Muslims had freedom to express ourselves, and like everyone else does. But what you'll find...
You have mosques here to worship in.
Yes, but in France particularly, women don't have the right to wear hijabs in schools. They don't have a right to dress with a niqab in public. Muslims can't pray in public in France. These are deniers or denying Muslims' rights, which other people enjoy, and Muslims have become a second-class citizen. In the UK, for example, people have gone to jail for writing poems in their house they have never published. Muslims for posting Facebook comments. Azhar Ahmed just posted a comment saying that all British soldiers should go to hell. Unwise comment, but he didn't. No one tolerated his free speech.
But on the cartoon, you would take offence.
I strongly disagree with the cartoon, but it does not justify anyone to commit acts of violence or killing and so on, obviously, and Islam prohibits anyone from taking the law into their own hands and doing those killings.
Abdullah al Andalusi and the Reverend Rose Hudson Wilkin, thank you very much for joining me.